So let's talk to Dimeji Obasa, who is a treasury coverage at Access Bank, to take us through the first primary market auction of 2020 by the central bank. Good morning, Dimeji. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Right, so exciting to have you on the program. So break this down. I'm not sure you're surprised by the size of the subscription of the PMA yesterday offered by the central bank and the stop rates that we had in that auction.
No, no, we are not really surprised. The oversubscription was expected, but this oversubscription across all three maturities that were on offer, the DMO stuck to selling that stuck to selling what was on offer. So on the 91, 182, and 364 days, they still sold what was on offer despite the oversubscription. We saw the 91-day closing at about 3.5, 182-day close at 4.9, and the 364-day, the longest tenor on offer, closed at about 5.2.
So what does this tell about the level of liquidity that we still have at the marketplace roller coaster from 2019 to where we are starting the new year, in particular this first month at least, going by the calendar that we have?
Well, in terms of the overall market liquidity in the interbank market, has been fairly liquid significantly, and that was carried over from last year. For the T-bill market, it's been liquid, but then there have been fewer trades. So the market has been kind of quiet coming in towards the end of last year and at the beginning of this year, yesterday being the very first trading day. We expect this to persist today, but from next week, we expect that the market will begin to pick up and we begin to see more trades.
So at the secondary window, what's your outlook when we have the savings bond from the debt management office, then we have the first Naira bond auction for the first month of the year? Do you think we'll have, the authorities would have been able to move enough liquidity out of the markets in a way to re-energize the yield curve a little bit much stronger?
Well, that's a very strong possibility. Given the lower yields that we are seeing in the treasury bills market and the expectation that they are to reduce further, we might begin to see interest shift towards the bond market. So we probably will see more interest there, a lot more activity, a lot of market participants looking to move there to seek higher yields for their funds. So it's very likely that we see an oversubscription bond markets when the auctions come up.
Dimeji, if I may ask you, what was your playbook at Access Bank, at the Treasury's department or Treasury unit, in terms of your outlook for the rest of the year on the fixed income market street?
So on the fixed income market, at least the one thing that we are certain of as at this time is that the CBN's policy restricting individuals and local corporates from the OMO window is expected to be persistent. We don't see any change in that. So it's very likely that at best, CBO rates probably remain at these levels and towards the rest of the year. And we see that a lot of, most likely the corporates, move towards the bond markets, in search of higher yields. And we also see some of the corporates issue commercial papers to, enjoy the low yield environment that we are seeing now, to sort of just take advantage to borrow cheaper. So these are the kind of things that we're sort of looking out for, right? But in terms of our own playbook, what we want to do is just to ride with the market, ensure that we, ahead of the curve. So what we want to do is just have all these instruments on offer for our customers and, be able to provide advisory services.
Is currency or exchange rate any consideration for you in the new year in terms of what might happen or what may not likely happen in terms of exchange rate?
Well, in terms of exchange rates, we expect some relative stability right now. Towards the end of last year, as expected, there was a lot of scarcity that drove rates up. So we saw some depreciation. We expect that to taper off towards the beginning of the year as trading starts, and as a lot of market participants open for business and begin to, come into.
Sorry, we apologize. We lost that connection to Dibeji Obasa, who is in charge of Treasury coverage at Access Bank. We do apologize for that connection failure. Speaking with us about yesterday's primary market auction and what's the playbook for a Treasury unit at Access Bank regarding the fixed income space in the new year 2020, whether exchange rate is on everyone's focus. Of course, some forecast has been made as to what the exchange rate will look like. The central bank has said, well, the outlook is that the regulator will continue to defend the Naira in the new year and will try to keep the band and perhaps try to narrow the gap between the official rate and the investors and exporters window, the I&E. All of that, we'll keep asking dealers from different houses this month that will step into the new year. But again, we're stepping into the new year 2020 with Dangote Sugar Refinery PLC yesterday announcing the resignation of the company secretary and legal advisor, Chioma Madubuko, who reserved from the company, according to this notice, two-paragraph notice to the market, 2nd January 2020. Dangote Sugar yesterday was taken out of one of the NSE index. Let me just ask Rotimi Fakayejo here to look into this trading day for us. Rotimi, welcome back, and thanks for standing by for us to wrap up the show together. Do you think this is any major news, the resignation of the company secretary and legal advisor at Dangote Sugar Refineries?
No, it's not a major news at all. It's just a regular compliance to happenings in the company that ought to be reported to the Nigerian Stock Exchange management and to the entire market and also the Securities and Exchange Commission. It has no material effect on the performance of the company or the perception of the company.
What's your perception of MTN Nigeria yesterday inclusion in the NSE 30 in the Lotus Islamic Index, in the NSE pension, and all of that, and the price went up? I'm sure your ears are also up on that.
Yes, definitely. This kind of thing has a lot of effect because if it is included in the pension index, then definitely it means more of the PFAs we definitely want to take positions in the stock. And that had happened because of consistent dividend payments, which had been over the years without fail. And I think to an extent, definitely this is what every investor looks out for in a stock. So with the inclusion in the pension index and the Lotus, I believe it's quite a good one for MTN, and it's definitely going to affect the price positively. So we may begin to see more activities on the stock as more investors will take interest in it. And definitely, if there are more activities, then we will see more performance in terms of the price.
Do you think, yes, that's a good one. Again, if you look at the dividend history of MTN as a private company, now a PLC, so that, of course, well said by you. But again, in terms of corporate governance index, do you think this is an icing on the cake for MTN Nigeria? You're in the NSE 30, you're in the premium, now you're in the corporate governance index.
Well, I think it is because, the NSE management hasn't had any negative news concerning MTN over the period in terms of their management, in terms of the way they comply with regulatory issues, and also in the way that their investors perceive them in the market. So I think all of this put together is definitely going to make them fulfill the three strong points of every investment, which is profitability, growth, and sustainability. So if everything they are doing is geared towards this in a in a way that will not flout any regulation, and I think there is every reason that this development is quite a good one for them and a good reward as well.
Thank you. I'm sure you need to leave the studios. Rotimi Fakayejo, market analyst. The trading floor is just in front of you there, and the index is just about 0.04% positive. You may need to do some look into the trading engine. Thank you so much, Rotimi. We appreciate your time this morning for being part of the show. And we thank our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. We'll see you again on Monday, the first full business and trading week of 2020. It's quite a lot to talk about when we return on Monday. You'll find out.